Chiefs Kingdom. Welcome back to All Chiefed Up. We're back with another podcast for that ass. And today we're doing All Chiefed Up's 2024 NFL Draft Prospects, all boom or bust teams, Steve. This is going to be a fun one. Let's get it started.
Before we get the show started, just want to say thanks for watching All Chiefed Up. Hit that freaking like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Help your boys out a little bit. Man, we're going to talk about these boom or bust guys from the 2024 NFL Draft. I'm pretty pumped about it, Mike. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off with the first guy.
Let's go.
He's a QB, baby. He's a hot name right now. It's J.J. McCarthy, quarterback from Michigan. Mike, J.J. McCarthy is a big name right now. A lot of people talking about trading up and trying to snag this guy early in the first round. He's hot after his pro day, man. J.J. McCarthy from Michigan. He is hometown, LaGrange Park, Illinois. He was a junior coming out of college. Height 6'2.5". Weight 219. Arm length 31 and 5/8 inch and 9-inch hands. Mike, what do you think about J.J. McCarthy? What do you like about him? And ultimately, I want to know, is he a boom or a bust?
Right, man. Dude, I like J.J. McCarthy. It was talked about that he wasn't a guy that was part of the big three, right? That was Daniels and Caleb Williams and Drake May. But now McCarthy is drawing some interest, and this is why he's on the boom bust. Is he going to go in the top 5? Is somebody going to take that shot? And right now, it looks like they will, man. He was recruited by Ohio State, big Ohio State fan, and then they went and committed to another quarterback, and he called them liars right to their face in high school. And he said, I hate Ohio State. I'm going to Michigan, and I'm going to beat that ass. And that's what he did. He went up there with Harbaugh. He dominated. And you know what? He wasn't asked to do a lot. That is a run-first offense, and he took that. He didn't want to go to a team, that said we're going to put up stats and you're going to win Heismans and this and that. He wanted to go to a place to win. He went ahead and accepted it, and that's what these teams love about him, Steve, is because he is a guy that doesn't have a lot of experience, but he can be molded and shaped. And ultimately, I think he's a good quarterback, man. In 2023, 72% completion percentage, almost 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns and only 4 picks. He added on 10 touchdowns in the run game. I think he's a good guy. He can play within the pocket, Steve. And I'm going to say right now, I think McCarthy is a boom. I think he's a boom, and I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be a good quarterback in this league if put in the right situation, and maybe they let him grow a little bit before they throw him to the fire.
Absolutely. I've seen J.J. McCarthy comp to everyone from Jake Plummer to Alex Smith to Kirk Cousins. Like anyone that's a white quarterback, they've comped this guy too. But I think they just need to let him be J.J. McCarthy. Yeah. Because I'm with you. I think he's leaning more towards that boom than a bust, man. I see a lot of good traits out of him. And you have to remember, he was in Harbaugh's crappy offense at Michigan and still won a national championship, still shined.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot there for J.J. McCarthy. I like him. Let's go ahead and move on to the next guy in our all boom or bust team, Mike, and that is running back Bucky Irving from Oregon. Bucky Irving. The Chiefs have met with Bucky Irving.
Yes.
So I think they like him a little bit, Mike. Obviously, he's from Oregon. He's hometown Chicago. He was a junior coming out of college. 5'9" is his height. 192 pounds is his weight. He has 29.5-inch arms and 9.5-inch hands. Mike, what do you like about Bucky Irving?
Hey, when you look at Bucky, you say he's too small. He's too small. That's what everybody says. And look, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say I agree. He's a little guy. But let me tell you something. Field vision is elite. His shiftiness is elite. He almost had more missed tackles forced per attempt than Bijan Robinson. Think about that one. He is so smooth, and he thinks. He beats you. He knows what the defense is going to do before they do it. That is what makes him so elite, in my opinion. He doesn't have the best long speed. He doesn't have that. You're not going to get that big home run half the time, especially in the NFL with all that speed. But he's got that great little burst. Those first few steps, he's going to hit the hole quick. He's got a great center of gravity. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. In 2023, he had 1,192 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he added on 55 receptions for almost 400 yards, Steve. He has a 149.2 elusiveness rating, and after contact, 743 yards. 743 yards after contact. Do you know that is the same yards after contact per attempt as Braylon Allen, who is a 235-pound running back from Wisconsin? And he's got the same amount of yards after contact. I think Bucky Irving is going to be boom bust because is he too small? Is he not have enough long speed? Time will tell. I think if you use him as a Jerick McKinnon type guy, a third down back, I do believe Bucky could get into the boom category, but if he goes to somebody that won't use him like that and tries to feature him as a running back one, it's going to be a bust. So I think it definitely depends. For the Chiefs, I'll say it's a boom.
Right. Well, Bucky has a hell of a gas station chain. They have the great brisket sandwiches and stuff and 100 pumps at every store. But no, man, I like Bucky Irving as well. I kind of think of Nico Remigio in the aspect that like he had a really crappy RAS score, but when you watch his tape, he's electric. He's a playmaker. He's a football player. You like what you see. That's exactly what I saw with Nico last year. I think if Bucky gets in the right situation, which probably would be with someone like the Kansas City Chiefs, I definitely think he could be a boom as well, Mike. I'm a fan of Bucky Irving.
Right. But I think round 3, round 4, start looking for Bucky.
Right. I think any running back, you're going to have to wait till about round 3 to start really getting the good value because it's just going to be one of those drafts, man. But let's go ahead and move on to the next guy on the All Boomer Bust team, and that is tight end Jatavion Sanders from Texas, Mike. We like Jatavion Sanders. We've talked about him quite a bit. A lot of people have the Chiefs being interested in Jatavion Sanders. Right. If I'm not mistaken, they've met with the guy. Here he is from Texas. Actually, his hometown was in Texas as well. So just Texas guy through and through. 6'4", 245 pounds, 32 7/8 inch arms, and 10 1/8 inch hands. Mike, Jatavion Sanders, he's a very athletic tight end. I've always said he reminds me of Isaiah Likely. A lot of people were high on him. He's starting to fall down the boards a little bit. Tell me about Jatavion Sanders.
Like Jatavion Sanders. Look, he has fallen a little bit. We've actually put Ben Sinnott up above him. He is now our tight end 3, Jatavion Sanders. So it goes Brock Bowers, Ben Sinnott, Jatavion Sanders. But look, Jatavion Sanders, if you ask him to play in line, he's probably going to get beat up a little bit. If you ask him to play, a little slot, if you ask him to move around, find ways to get him the ball, he is going to eat in the middle part of the field, the intermediate part of the field. He is going to do that. He's basically a giant wide receiver. So if that's what you're looking for, that's your guy. If you want a guy that's going to block and be just a hell of a blocker, that's not Jatavion Sanders. So which one do you want? Do you want a Kelsey kind of guy who has made his blocking good, but he is an elite threat with the ball in his hands? That's Jatavion. So look, he was a former 5-star tight end coming out of high school. And in high school, he played wide receiver and defensive end. Wasn't even a tight end. He played defensive end when he first got to Texas. And they were like, look, okay, you can't play defensive end. So look, he's a great pass catcher. He's got good size and speed. He shields off defenders when he goes up for the ball. He doesn't get thrown around on contact. He's got pretty good straight line speed. And the best thing about him, Steve, he's productive. And in 2023, he had 0 drop passes. And if you're a Chief fan, that is what you want. He cuts on a dime. He can change direction. He's got pretty good stop-start ability for his size. And he runs pretty crisp routes. I think he's going to be good at the next level if given a situation that he can flourish in. If you're going to put him as an inline tight end, you are going to be disappointed. But at 6'3", 245, by the way, the same exact size as Brock Bowers. Nobody's asking Brock Bowers to go out here and probably block his butt off. They're just going to move him around and make him a receiver threat. So that's what you're going to have to do with Jatavion Sanders. So in the Chiefs offense, he could do Travis Kelce. He could do Noah Gray. He can do that. Jatavion Sanders in round 3, maybe come up early in round 3, or maybe even the end of round 2. Would not surprise me that Brett Veach and Andy Reid doesn't get them another weapon. And again, this is a weapon for Patrick Mahomes in the receiving game. Doesn't matter what position you play or what you do. This is a guy that can go up and get it. He had a 79 receiving grade. And he had 45 receptions. So he can do it. He's a big red zone target, Steve. I think Jatavion Sanders, again, with the Chiefs, is a boom.
I think Jatavion Sanders overall has the ability to be a boom in the NFL, but it really, to me, depends on his situation. I've seen a lot of things I don't like about Jatavion Sanders when I watch his tape, Mike. If he knows the ball's not coming to him, he don't finish his routes. He's not a good blocker. He's not exactly out there working his ass off or anything like that. I don't get that vibe from Jatavion Sanders, and it goes just as well to the receivers over at Texas.
Right.
I feel like it was a culture problem in Texas. I've seen it with Xavier Worthy. I've seen it with A.D. Mitchell, and I've seen it with Jatavion Sanders. So I'll tell you what, man. I think he has potential to be a boom, but I think it's very dependent on his situation and where he gets drafted at. So I'm going to say I'm leaning more towards bust with Jatavion Sanders right now.
Can I say one thing? His blocking grade from PFF was a 61.5, and people say he can't block. People think Cade Stover, great blocker. He's tough. He'll block. His blocking grade from PFF was a 54.4. So he actually scored 7 points higher than Cade Stover. So can he block? I think he can.
I
Does he
think
do
it's
it all
all
the
about-
time?
It's that
No.
perspective, man. When you watch Cade Stover on tape, he's working hard. He's
Right.
playing hard. Jatavion Sanders don't have that trait, and I think that's what people see, and that's what they translate to. He's not blocking, or
Right.
Cade Stover's a hell of a blocker.
I
But let's
agree.
go ahead and move on to another big boomer bust guy, Mike. One of my favorites in this draft right now, and that is wide receiver Xavier Legette from South Carolina. I love Xavier Legette. I've done a short on Xavier Legette talking about him, talking about why he's still going to be good, even though he had a small sample size. I just love the guy. Xavier Legette from South Carolina. He's South Carolina through and through, just like Jatavion Sanders was from Texas. He's 6'1", 221 pounds, 31 7/8-inch arms, and 9-inch hands. Mike, Xavier Legette is absolutely fire on tape. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I like Xavier Legette. Like, look, his big knock, by the way, and he's ultimately boomer bust. This guy just epitomizes that saying. 6'1.5", 221 pounds. He has an elite 4.39 40-yard dash. He has an elite 1.54 10-yard split. You realize that is the same as Justin Jefferson's 1.54 10-yard split? That is actually faster. 0.05 faster than Jamar Chase's 10-yard split. He has a 40-inch vert, 47% contested catch rate with only a drop rate of 2.7%, Steve. Xavier Legette, his only knock is that he's only got one good year of production. He had 1,255 yards off 71 catches, 7 touchdowns. But look, he was given an 87 PFF grade at receiving. He was given an 85.6 grade versus man coverage. So he can beat man. He is a deep threat. He's a guy that you say, look, I'm going to throw it up, go deep, use that speed, use that athleticism, and go win us a ball in the red zone. Throw it up. We'll throw it to the moon, jump out of the atmosphere and grab that sucker, baby. While you're up there, wave to Buzz or whoever's on the moon, you know. I don't know. But that's the thing about him. He offers some stuff that the Chiefs just have not had. Will they do that? I don't know if he fits us. As well as a lot of people, you know, they want to take a shot on this guy. I just don't know if Andy and them are all in on a receiver like this. He tends to not fit our mold too well. But I will say, man, the thing about Xavier Legette is that he's got pretty good character, man. He worked his butt off to get where he's at, and I really like it. Now, the thing that kind of bothers me is South Carolina, they very much scheme to get him over on crossing routes, little things like that, to get him the ball in the intermediate part of the field and let him use his speed. I don't know if the Chiefs will use him that way per se, and if he's asked to just be a straight-up X receiver, don't really know how that's going to pan out. So for right now, I'm going to say with the Chiefs, I think he could be a boom. I think he's a boom. I'm going to go ahead and say boom. Screw it. I say boom. We've got 4 booms
You're really
now.
tiptoeing the line there, Mike. I don't know if you're so sure about it. Well, I want to talk about Xavier Legette for a minute, man. The main thing is everyone says we have a small sample size. We only have 1 year of production. That's just too big of a risk. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Xavier Legette, Mike. He was a quarterback in high school going into college. He has elite field vision, which is excellent for a guy that translated over to wide receiver. But, you know, he actually went to South Carolina and he told them, I will play nothing but special teams until you give me the opportunity to play wide receiver.
Right.
I want to earn my spot. And guess what? He earned his spot. And when he got his chance, he freaking killed it, bro. He went off and everyone saw it. Everyone's seen the tape. Another thing is he dealt with a lot of things. He dealt with coaching changes at South Carolina. He dealt with losing both of his parents. And then he also was in a motorcycle wreck and dealt with injury and played through the injuries from the motorcycle wreck.
Right.
This kid is a workhorse. This kid has the right attitude. He was also a team captain, and he also won a bunch of awards for being, you know, great character and just a leader, man. Like, they really talk highly of him coming out of South Carolina. I think Xavier Legette's a boom. I think there's a lot of different teams that he could go to and absolutely kill it. He would almost have to go to a poor situation where I think he won't be effective somewhere.
That's almost why I said bust, though, Steve, because we know how Andy Reid likes to use receivers. We know that
I think he would be a boom on the Chiefs.
but
man.
we just know the big receivers in this offense do not tend to do well. That's all I'm saying, and that's why I say, but I'll say boom.
Right. Well, let's move on and talk about another receiver we have here on the All Boomer Bust team, and that is Devontez Walker, wide receiver from North Carolina. He played out there with Drake May, Mike. He is from Charlotte, North Carolina. I've noticed a lot of these kids are playing college in their home state. They're being faithful, man. I like it. I like to see that. He's coming out as a senior. He is 6'1.5" inches tall, 193 pounds, 33.25" arms, and 9 1/8" hands. Mike, tell me a little bit about Devontez Walker.
Devontez Walker is polarizing, man. There's no other way to say it. Is he going to be good? Is he going to be bad? Again, this is another epitome of the boom or bust. 6'1.5", 193. He started at, I don't remember where he started, North Carolina State, North Carolina Central, somewhere like that. And they canceled it because of COVID, and he transferred to Kent State. He goes to Kent State, and if you watch that Kent State film, he is flat out amazing, man. Great hands, great separation. He was super athletic. He was super physical. He was just a dynamic, deep play threat. He was a wide receiver one alpha. And when you watch that film, you were like, good night. And you said, but is it just because of Kent State? So he says, look, I'm going to take my talents to the ACC. He goes into North Carolina, he goes into the transfer portal, goes to North Carolina, and they tell him he can't play because that's that's now the third transfer because he had 2 other schools. They ended up fighting it. Mac Brown, the coach, actually said, NCAA is a fraud. They let him come back and play. And he just didn't look that great this year. With Drake May as his quarterback, he still didn't look that great. His production was fine because he only played 8 games. And he still had 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. So not too bad. But he wasn't as dominant on film as a blocker. He was way more inconsistent. He didn't run as precise of routes. He didn't get off press man very well at all. He only scored a 54.8 grade versus man-to-man coverage. At the Senior Bowl, he takes it to the Senior Bowl, and you're like, look, you can prove yourself, baby. You tested elite at the Combine. At the Combine, he comes out, and he tests amazingly. A 4.36 40 and a 1.54 10-yard split, 40.5-inch vertical with 33-inch arms, 60% catch rate, 6.8% drop rate. Everything across the board is elite, but then when he goes to the Senior Bowl, drop, mental mistakes. It's insane. Michael Penix was throwing him dimes, and he was dropping them, just straight dropping them, and he got a little better towards the end of the week, so he figured it out a little bit. But he still just had his problems, man. So it's like, what are you getting? Are you getting Kent State? That's been 2 to 3 years ago. Are you getting his drops and all that? I actually comped him to DJ Chark. And if you think about it, DJ Chark, when he come out, he had to find a specific role that he could be used as. And so far, he's not been able to find it. And DJ Chark's been a bust. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Devontez Walker is also going to be a bust, because I don't know if he's going to be able to find the role that he needs to do. And even if he finds that role, does he have the mental fortitude to get it together? And right now, after 2 straight years of nothing, I think it's gotten his head a little bit, and I'm going to put him on the bust category.
I'll tell you what I'm going to compare drafting Devontez Walker to. Have you ever been at the convenience store and you see the old person walk in and they're like, can you give me one of the number 12s? The scratch-off ticket.
Give me a 12.
Okay, they get the scratch-off ticket. They're over there scratching. They're hoping they're going to hit like the grand prize. They're going to win $50,000.
Yeah, man.
And you know what they win, Mike? They win a free ticket. That's what they get. That's what I think it's going to be. I think Devontez Walker has great measurables. I think he had a great combine. I think he's a great athlete, but sometimes that just doesn't translate to the football field.
Right.
And that's what I watched on tape with Devontez Walker. And we know from talking to other guys that have made the leap from college to NFL, Mike, there is a huge gap there. There is a huge leap. And if he wasn't excelling in the NCAA, I don't think he's going to excel in the NFL, especially very quickly. He's going to be a developmental player. Do I think that there's a chance that he could be a good receiver? Yeah, I do. I think he's got the physical traits. But Devontez Walker scares the hell out of me. Let's just be honest here. I'm going to say he's probably going to be a bust.
Yep.
But let's go ahead and move on to an offensive lineman, Mike. This is a guy a lot of Chiefs fans have talked about maybe falling down the board to the end of the first round, and we can take a flyer on him. And his name is Amarius Mims. Offensive tackle from Georgia. This guy is a mammoth of a human being, Mike. He's from Georgia, born and raised in Georgia, went to college in Georgia. Like I said, a lot of these guys are staying in state. That's kind of cool to me. 6'8", 340 pounds. He is a freaking behemoth, bro. 36 and 1/8-inch arms and 11.25-inch hands. Dude. Mike, this guy is a freaking beast. I noticed that he has all the tools. He's a big guy, and when he plays, he looks freaking elite at what he does. He looks like a big, giant athlete. But like Xavier Legette, we have small sample size.
Small sample size. He's played less than 800 snaps. So what are you getting here? You don't know. I tell you what you are getting. You're getting a big mammoth 6'8", 340-pound guy who carries it so well. And by the way, he runs a 5.0740, which translates very, very well to the NFL. Do you realize that's faster than Panay Sewell? It's insane. He's got 36 and an eighth inch arms, 11 and a quarter inch hands, dude. If he gets those big paws on you, he's going to destroy you. But it doesn't really translate. He doesn't run block all that well. Only a 68% grade. His pass blocking looks okay. He got graded an 81. And again, it's decent on a true pass set grade where they wasn't doing, they're not doing just quick screens. They're not doing, all this stuff in the backfield. He has to just set up and he's got to block for the quarterback. And this year it was Carson Beck. 75.6. So not the best there either. He does anchor pretty well. He moves as a big guy. He moves pretty well. I think there's a lot of intangibles there that are going to be intriguing to NFL offensive line coaches. And they're like, look, if you can give me 6'7", 340 that looks like that and moves like that, I can make him a Pro Bowler. And that's why he is looked at as a mid-first round to maybe early to late first round. I do not think he gets to the Chiefs. I don't think he gets past pick 25 probably, and that is pushing it. I think he goes earlier than people think because NFL teams love to get a guy like this, stash him away. And by the way, even if you don't stash him and you have to play him this year, he can probably get by if he stays healthy on just his physical traits. That's the thing. But he is a project. You have to remember it. I think what I'm going to call him is oh man, I don't know what to do. I'm going to call him, I'm going to say he's together, a boom. Mike. I think he gets it together.
I like it.
I think he's a boom.
I like it too.
It won't be instantly though. I don't think it'll be an instant boom.
Well, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, it depends on the situation he lands in. And that's the beauty with these boom or bust guys.
Right.
It really just depends on where they go, what coaches they get to work with, what situation they're in. Amarius Mims, to me, Mike, for that size, he carries that gargantuan body as well as anyone I've ever seen.
Yes, he does.
He is absolutely awesome on tape. He is athletic. He's big, but he moves just like the smaller guys. I like what he can do, man. I think he's a boom. I really do. Once again, this is a guy I think he's going to have to go to a pretty nasty situation to not work out and be a decent offensive lineman in an NFL.
Got to get those injuries under control.
Exactly. That's the main thing, man. If he can stay healthy, he's definitely a boom. And there's a lot of players like that. We had one on our team, named Kadarius Toney. We're still hoping that can boom one day. But let's go ahead and move on. We got a defensive tackle from LSU, Maason Smith. Mike, Maason Smith, also a hometown guy from Louisiana, went to LSU, 6'5", 306, 35-inch arms, 8.5-inch hands. Mike, what do you like about Maason Smith?
He's raw. He doesn't have another reason that he's a boomer bust. He doesn't have a lot of tape. He really doesn't. He went to LSU. He hurt himself in the first game celebrating for a teammate's play versus Florida State. Tore his ACL. Comes back. He had a decently productive year. Nothing great, but the dude tests well. 6'5", 306, and I swear if you squint at your TV screen, you swear you see Chris Jones. He's built just like him. He carries his weight just like him. Look, he tested great in 3 categories, the 40, the 10, and the vert. His arms are elite, 35-inch arms. That is insane. That is actually longer by 2 inches than Chris Jones. His hands are a little tiny, 8.5, but those long arms. I think, again, this is another player that NFL scouts are going to say, look, put him on my defensive line. Let me take him. And look, this is going to cause some ruckus. But I think he's gaining traction to come up the board. I now have him number 5 on my defensive tackle. And look, I didn't want to put him that high, but from everything I'm hearing and every scout, everything that I can get my hands on, anything I can get my ears on, they're all falling in love with what he could be. And look, when Chris Jones come out in the second round, he wasn't nothing great. Nobody thought he was going to turn out to be that. Right. So I think off Maason Smith's intangibles, his size, and just his pure athleticism, when he come out of high school, he was a top 20 nationwide recruit. So I think there's a lot there, and I think somebody's going to pull the trigger on this kid in the second round possibly, which is insane. He will go no later than mid-third. So I think he can get in the second. I think somebody's going to take a shot on him, see what they can do. I myself, though, am going to say I think he's a bust. I don't think if you're expecting Chris Jones, you're going to be sadly mistaken. But if you get him in the third round, I'm fine with taking it. I think second's just a little too high for me. So I'll say bust.
Well, let me tell you, if you're thinking that he's going to be anything like Chris Jones is the greatest defensive tackle in all of football. Do you really think you're going to get that right off the rip with Maason Smith? Absolutely not. He is a project, Mike. I like his tape. I think he has the chance to be a boom kind of guy. It's hard to say with guys that you see them on tape and they look really good, but just nothing translates when you start looking at the RAS score and things like that, which not that he had a bad one. But Maason Smith, he kind of seems like that guy that could be a draft hype and then disappear into oblivion. So I'm right there with you, Mike. I'm going to have a bust on him. Hopefully he can prove me wrong. And hopefully he can not have another Drake Greenlaw moment and hurt himself celebrating. Well, actually, Greenlaw was just trying to run off the sideline. So
right. Can I say about Maason Smith? His run defense is kind of atrocious. Only a 55.6% grade by PFF and only a 3% run stop rate. He's got to get bigger and stronger at the point of attack or he's getting kicked out of the league. He's being washed.
Just a little side note. I think maybe you should watch out for his sidekick, Mekhi Wingo. I'm just going to say that. But let's go ahead and move on to another defensive tackle that everybody loves. Mike, they fell in love with this guy after the combine because he did great things at the combine.
Right.
And that's Braden Fiske, defensive tackle from Florida State University. He's actually from Michigan City, Indiana, Mike. What about that? But he went to Florida State. He's 6'4", 292, so a little on the undersized as far as fat boy status, but 31-inch arms and 9 3/8-inch hands. Mike, tell us about Mr. Braden Fiske.
Dude, he's an older prospect, look, but he lit the world on fire at the combine in testing, man. 4.78 40-yard dash. Are you kidding me? There's tight ends and receivers can't get 4.78.
That's so crazy, bro.
A 1.68 10-yard split, a 33.5-inch vert. Those are all elite metrics. He's got shorter arms, 31-inch arms. So guess what? When he goes to get to those guys, when they reset themselves and they can catch him and he don't beat them with speed, he gets blocked out. He can't beat a double team. He will get washed out on a double team. He's only 292 pounds. He has to be a little, look, he's a guy that relies on shooting gaps and doing, just disrupting in the backfield. He was at Western Michigan for 5 years. He was three years as a full-time starter, and then he transferred over. But dude, he's got all these abilities to shoot gaps, get in the backfield, and be a disruptor. But it's those limits, man. He's a one-gap penetrator, and he has short arms. I don't know what to say. I don't think that's going to translate over to the NFL as much as people think it will, and as much as people are hoping for with him. In my opinion, I just don't think it's going to be there. Now, he does have a decent run grade compared to Maason Smith. He's got a 69. Is it that much better? Yeah, just a little bit. He has been productive in all the years he's been in college, and he showed he could be productive at Florida State against ACC talent. Is he going to be a boom or a bust? I still think he's going to be a bust. I think he's too small at this level. I think he's going to get washed out by double teams and these big offensive line. Imagine Creed Humphrey getting his paws on him. You're not getting off of him. Right. I think he's a bust.
Well, there are a lot of guys that are a little undersized at this position in this draft, and there are two in particular that I think are better prospects than Braden Fiske, in my opinion. And that would be Johnny Newton from Illinois, and then Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State University. I like both of those guys better than I like Braden Fiske, Mike.
Yes.
The only one that I feel like is just going to be an absolute boom is Johnny Newton. He reminds me a lot of Aaron Donald, the way he hits these quarterbacks, the way he plays so physical. He's just an absolute disruptor. I don't get that vibe from Braden Fiske, so I'm going to have to go with you, man. I think it's going to be a bust for Mr. Braden Fiske, but once again, maybe he can prove us wrong. We'll see what situation he ends up in, because ultimately we know that's what matters. Let's go ahead and move on to a defensive end prospect, Mike. Chop Robinson from PSU. He is from Maryland, went to college at Penn State, 6'3", 254 pounds, 32.5-inch arms, little bitty arms, 9 1/8-inch hands. Mike, Chop Robinson is kind of a darling right now for people. He had a great combine. He's a freak athlete, but man, he has all the makings of bust, does he not?
He does. At 6'3", 254, he's small. He's going to have to be a stand-up outside linebacker. They're saying he's Micah Parsons. Guys, that's insane. There's no way this guy's going to be Micah Parsons. He's not football savvy enough. He's not as smart as Micah Parsons. They're just saying that because they come out of Penn State. Can everybody get any more generic on some of these things?
And he ran a 4.4 40.
Right. Well, he had a 4.48 40. It's pretty elite. A 1.54 10-yard split. Look, he gets off the ball, but there's just no production there. There's no production. He had 4 sacks in 2023, and 2 of them came against UMass in week 6. Come on, it took him 6 weeks in to get 2 sacks, and it was against UMass. It's just not that good. His 2 most disruptive games of the season was against Iowa and Rutgers. Again, not the most explosive offenses you've ever seen. He does grade high. His overall grade has been over a 90 2 straight years by PFF. A 92.3 pass rush grade. Against a true pass rush set, I'll get it out in a minute, a 93. But look, he can't stop the run too well. He's only got a 5.9% run stop rate. And I just don't know. I don't think he's much more than being outside as a 7 tech, a 9 tech, and just going to get a quarterback. And I just don't know how that translates. I think he's a little bit too tiny. Again, he only had 18 hurries this year. If that's the one thing that you're asked to do is just get after the quarterback and all you can muster up is 18 hurries and 3 sacks, I just don't see it.
It's very scary.
I think he's going to be a bust. I think he's a bust, but I do think he probably somehow gets drafted before pick 23, 24. Like, sadly,
Right.
and at that, you're a bust.
Well, Chop Robinson to me, his ceiling is absolutely up there, dude. Like, you can't even see it because this guy running a 4.4 coming off the edge, he does have Micah Parsons traits, and I know that's why people want to instantly put him to Micah Parsons and comp him to him, other than just being from Penn State. But with Chop Robinson, man, I'm with you. I think he's probably going to get drafted higher than he should, just off of those measurables, and I think that he's probably going to be a bust in the league, man. That's just kind of all there is to it. But let's go ahead and keep trucking forward. If you guys are still watching right now, you're one of the real ones. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and get in the comments. Let us know what you think so far, and let me know you're still watching 32 minutes into this bad boy.
Let's go.
Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, Mike. We got a linebacker, Payton Wilson from North Carolina State. Payton Wilson is from Hillsborough, North Carolina, went to NC State. He is 6'4", 233 pounds, 30.5-inch arms and 9-inch hands, and a beautiful curly head of hair there, Mike.
Yeah, he does. Look, everything to like about Payton Wilson. He's only on this list, and I'm going to be very transparent. He's only on this list because the only way he is a bust is if his medicals don't hold. He's been injured a few times throughout his career, man. He's had some knee problems. He's had this.
He's a bit of an old man, isn't he?
Right. He's been around for just a little while, but I'm telling you, man, he does everything good. If you watch him on film, I think he's going to be 24. If you watch him on film, he does everything right. In coverage, he had 26 coverage stops. He led the NCAA. He only allowed a 47% QB passer rating when throwing at him. He can definitely cover. He can get after the quarterback. He can cause ruckus. He doesn't miss tackles. He only had a 4% missed tackle rate. The dude can flat out play. 92 tackles in 2023. 92 tackles. He only had 6 missed tackles all season. I think he deserves to be a first-round pick, in my opinion. Again, it's all hinging on medicals. That's the only reason he's on boom bust, because if you watch him, he's got everything he needs to be an elite linebacker in this league, and I think his medicals are fine. I'm calling him a boom.
Mike, I'm going to give Mr. Payton Wilson a really good compliment right now. I think that if his health can hold up and everything works out for him, he could be someone's Luke Kuechly. He could be that type of player. He's all over the field. He's making plays. He's smart. I really like Payton Wilson. And let me show you something real quick. Am I the only one that thinks North Carolina State's logo is badass? Like, I love their logo. Dude. I don't know why I've always loved that thing, but Payton Wilson for me, I think it's an obvious boom. Obvious boom, baby.
He's a boom.
Let's go ahead and move on. Let's move into the defensive backs here. We have a cornerback from Clemson, Nate Wiggins. Everybody loves Nate Wiggins. He's got a lot of hype going on, but he also scares people in the first round. So he's kind of a polarizing type guy, kind of like Devontez Walker on the opposite side of the ball. But he's from Atlanta, Georgia, went to college at Clemson. He is 6'1", 173 pounds, 30.5-inch arms and 9-inch hands. Mike, Nate Wiggins is a very scary player to me. What do you think?
He scares me. I wouldn't take him in the first round. I can't do it. At 6'1", 173, he is super light. Now, they did say he got down at 173, but he actually plays at 180. If he can get up and play at 185 to 190, I'm fine with it. But at 173, he's getting blown around. If the wind picks up, he's gone.
That's speed, though, baby. That's speed.
He does have speed. The 4.28 40 is the only elite metric he has besides his 9-inch hands. Other than that, it's not that great. His 10-yard split was a 1.59, which is very concerning. That is one of the slowest. His vert was only 36 inches. And again, you're going to say 36 inches only? Not that great. Quinyon Mitchell's at 38. Cooper DeJean's at 38.5 coming off a broken leg. Okay, 2.5 inches off a broken leg. Max Melton, Drew Phillips, over 40-inch verts. So, I mean, come on, it can be done. Nate Wiggins just doesn't, to me, seem super athletic beyond his 40-yard dash. And again, doesn't really come up and help in the run game. And he's not overly shut down either. That's another reason, like, I can't get behind it. He only forced 7 incompletions all season. You realize that tied him for 199th in the NCAA. So you're going to drop off basically just a 4.2 40. You're just going to say, hey, I'm going to spend a first-round pick on this guy, and he's supposed to be a shutdown corner. But he only had 7 forced incompletions and 8 coverage stops. Come on. Yeah. I can't do it. I don't think he's worth a first-round pick. I wouldn't feel comfortable picking him till after pick 32 to 40, somewhere in that range. That's where I feel like it. But if he's a first-round guy and he goes before pick 25 or 28, which is what everybody's saying, I put him in the bust category.
Mike, elite speed, 4.28 40. You got to love it, and that's what's getting him all the hype right now. But I think that's all he's offering to teams, and I think you need a little bit more to offer than speed for a first-round draft pick. I'm with you, man. I think if someone takes him in the first round, they're going to absolutely think he's a bust. And overall, he's probably going to be. He just scares me a lot. I wouldn't take him in the first round, but somebody's going to take a shot on him. I really do think they will. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our last player in the all Boomer Bust team, and it is another cornerback, and he's someone that you guys might know around the Kansas City area because he plays at Missouri, and his name is Ennis Rakestraw Jr. Mike, Ennis Rakestraw, he's from West Dallas, Texas, went to college at Missouri, 5'11", 183 pounds, 32-inch arms, 8.5-inch hands. Tell me a little bit about Mr. Ennis. Ennis
is the exact opposite of Nate Wiggins. I'm just going to be honest. He's on the heavier side. He's slower. Instead of a 4.28 40 that's elite, you have a 4.51, which is kind of scoffed at, right? But his 10-yard split's actually faster by 0.05. He's a 1.54. It tests well. 32-inch arms makes it elite. People just did not test Ennis Rakestraw at Missouri. They didn't throw his way a lot. They just went somewhere else. That's what happens in college. When you got a dominant corner, they just won't throw to you. He still graded a 77 PFF overall in 2022, and in 2023 he got better at an 80. He suffered some ACL problem back in 2021. He's recovered from that. He's got a full season back. He's completely fine. I think that's going to check out. I think his medicals are good. He only allowed 1 touchdown this year, and in 3 years at Missouri, he only allowed 5 touchdowns. That's it. But again, he doesn't have a lot of production to show for it. He's good against like when he's in a zone, he's good. He's an 85 grades. He's good against the run, an 89. But against man coverage, and this is what I'm afraid of, is he's supposed to be the man-to-man shutdown guy. But he allows 64% completion percentage, and he only grades at a 57. So not that great for man-to-man, but I'll say this, and I think a lot of it is because of the speed thing. If you can get by him, he shows that he struggles. And there's a few other guys doing this right now. Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia ran a really bad one. TJ Tampa, who I love, ran a really bad time. So it's just one of these things where it's like, are these guys going to be able to take this to the next level and somehow learn the technique better and not have to rely on your intangibles? And honestly, here's the thing. I think Ennis Rakestraw is a good person. He was impressing everybody when they were speaking to him at all these, at all the combine meetings, at all of the All-Star game meetings. People like his attitude. I think he's got a pretty good work ethic. I think he's back. If you take him in the first round, I think he's a bust. If you get him mid-second, I think he could boom for you. So right now, I'm going to say he's a boom. I think he goes somewhere in the first part of the second round, so I'll call him a boom.
I like it. I do think he'll get the back end of the first round potentially, or he could be early second round. He kind of reminds me, not saying that he plays like him, but it reminds me of a prospect from a couple years ago, Andrew Booth, where everyone was really talking about the guy. They thought he was going to sneak into the back end of the first round, but then you haven't really heard much since. I kind of feel like that's how it's going to be with Rakestraw. I like his physicality and everything, but for some reason, I just have this like gut feeling that he's going to disappear into oblivion, Mike. I think I'm going to go the opposite of you. Even though I like a lot of his tape, I see a lot of bad things too. I'm going to go ahead and call him a bust, in my opinion.
I respect it.
Do you respect it?
Yeah, I mean, he's right there on the border for me. He's right there on the border.
Yeah, like
I think all these guys ultimately, Steve, before we wrap this up, it's where they're taken, and you can only say this so many times, but it's got to click in. Whoever takes these people and puts them in certain situations determines whether they're boom or bust. It really does. And sometimes it's just draft. Like, look, if Clyde Edwards-Helaire had not been taken in the first round and instead taken in the third where he probably belonged, nobody would be on his ass like they are. So It's where you get taken, and it's where, again, you take a Chop Robinson in round 2, he's probably not a bust no more, right? He's probably fine.
110%, man. But we appreciate you guys being here. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you next time. Go Chiefs, baby.